pressure is down. Fresh air fix my heat. I'm heading back.
In the city of Flintlock, Kaviya stood tall as the star of her high school basketball team. Her skill on the court was unparalleled, especially regarding her legendary three-point shots. The crowd's cheers echoed through the gymnasium every time she made a basket, and her teammates marveled at the sheer athleticism she brought to the team. As fate would have it, Kaviya's talent did not go unnoticed. She was offered a basketball scholarship at a prestigious Christian college, far away from the violent streets she navigated as a child and teenager. Kaviya would have to walk to school each day, and each day she would be so scared to make that short walk to her school. She would just look out the window and see the gang that threatened her and the neighborhood. This gang was relentless in hurling insults and harassing Kaviya ever since her mother put one of their gang leaders behind bars. Her mother, a resilient judge in the criminal justice system, had fought hard to ensure Kaviya's safety and future. The scholarship was not just an opportunity for academic growth, but a lifeline to escape the clutches of a city full of violence and mayhem. The day Kaviya left for college was filled with a mixture of excitement and relief. She could finally break free from the shackles of her troubled neighborhood, leaving behind the haunting echoes of gunshots and the constant threat of danger. In her new city and state, the vibrant hues of hope replaced the shadows that had lurked around every corner of her past. Her mother, proud of Kaviya's achievements, bid her farewell with a heart full of love and a touch of sadness. Yet, she knew this was Kaviya's chance to soar beyond the limitations of their turbulent past. Months passed, and Kaviya flourished in her new environment. She became the shining star of the college basketball team, basking in the glory of her on-court victories and the camaraderie of her teammates. Life seemed to have taken a turn for the better, and the nightmares of her youth were slowly fading away. However, fate has a way of testing the resilience of the human spirit. One night, the gang that ruled her neighborhood, still bitter over the judge who had put one of their leaders behind bars, sought revenge. In a cruel twist of fate, they broke into Kaviya's childhood home, the same home where her mother and little sister still resided. The once vibrant atmosphere turned somber as the gang's sinister intentions unfolded. The gang drove up to the house with guns blazing and busted down the door of the house. Kaviya's mother and sister were tied up and subjected to a nightmarish ordeal of robbery and torture. The men raped Kaviya's little sister and mother, then they shot and killed them both and left without a care for their lives. The news reached Kaviya like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile peace she had worked so hard to build. A whirlwind of emotions consumed Kaviya: anger, despair, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. The miles that separated her from her family suddenly felt like an insurmountable chasm. The basketball court, once a haven of triumph, now seemed like a distant memory. In the face of this tragedy, Kaviya found herself at a crossroads. The echoes of her past had caught up with her, threatening to engulf the newfound serenity she had built. As she grappled with the pain of the present, she knew that the strength she had gained on the basketball court paled in comparison to the resilience required to navigate this personal tempest. Kaviya arrived at the funeral, and during the burial at the cemetery, Kaviya came face to face with the gang that murdered her family. Her blood was boiling as she went up to one of the gang leaders and started yelling and screaming at him as other family members held her back. With a silent stare on her face, Kaviya vowed to bring justice to those who had inflicted unspeakable pain upon her family. The court that once showcased her athletic prowess would now be in the court of law. She would continue attending school to finish her law degree and become a judge, just like her mother. Before Kaviya returned to school, she wanted to visit her childhood home. As Kaviya walks into the doorway, her emotions take over, and it finally hits her as she leans against the wall with the weight and realization of her mother and sister no longer there to greet her when she comes home. Kaviya lets out a long scream, breaks down, and cries. In profound sadness, Kaviya did not notice the men already inside the house waiting for her as she entered. She was knocked off her feet, knocked out, and after one by one defiled her unconscious body, they tied her feet and hands and threw her body into a waiting car, drove for miles out to the desert and shot her in the side, dumping her lifeless body in the desert, leaving for dead. The desert night was unforgiving, the silence broken only by the distant howl of the wind. Kaviya lay buried in the cold sand, her body battered and broken. As dawn painted the horizon with hues of orange and pink, Kaviya awoke to find an ache in her side throbbing with each heartbeat. She put her hand to her side, and her hand was covered in blood. She had been shot. The men had shot her while she was unconscious. They had put a hole in her side, and the blood was coming out in a trickle. She ripped a bit of her shirt off and pushed it into her side to slow the bleeding. Enduring the pain, she crawled toward a meager creek, the cool water a balm against the desert's relentless heat. Then Kaviya picked herself up and started walking, stumbling and falling along the way. The journey seemed endless as Kaviya walked. The sun beat down with each step she took, and an ever-increasing pain from her wound. Each step is a testament to the resilience forged in the crucible of suffering. But she was determined to fight for her life, not just lay down and die. In the distance, the silhouette of a monastery emerged, mirage-like against the sunlit landscape. With a final burst of strength, she collapsed at its entrance. Kaviya awakens to find nuns who tend to her wounds with their gentle touch. Nuns with prayers, whispered in a language as ancient as time, invoked a healing power beyond the realm of medicine. Kaviya again lost consciousness. She slept for days. When Kaviya finally awoke, the world around her was a tapestry of muted colors and soft sounds. She rose, unsteady but determined, and explored the confines of her sanctuary. The chapel called to her like a beacon, and she found herself drawn to its hallowed halls. Kneeling before the altar, Kaviya's eyes searched the heavens, as if seeking answers from a divine presence. With a surge of emotion, she raised clenched fists to the heavens, a silent scream echoing within the sacred space. "Why me?" she cried, her voice a raw whisper. "Why did you let them die? Why did you let me suffer? What did I do to deserve this life? Why do you allow the innocent to die while allowing the evil to thrive? Why?" A mysterious nun dressed in black, silently observing from the shadows, approached with a humble goblet. "Drink, child. It is a concoction of holy water and blessings. Let it cleanse your wounds, both seen and unseen." Kaviya accepted the goblet, the liquid cool against her lips. The sensation was more than physical. It was as if a current of energy surged through her veins. Her hands and eyes started glowing with this ethereal light, and she had this rush of pure energy radiating from her entire body. Kaviya was lifted and surrounded by lightning, and her body underwent a metamorphosis. Kaviya was changed forever. Her body and even her soul were changed from the inside, and she was a vision of herself and made brand new from the hands of God. The nun spoke with a calm assurance.
"You are now an instrument of God. He has granted you the power to vanquish damned souls and protect the innocent. Your words came from deep within you, because your soul is special, and you need to harness that powerful gift of yours. For your soul shines brighter than you know, and is stronger than you think. But with his gift to you comes a solemn duty, to do God's work and never turn your back on him again. You must trust God and be the light of this world to do what must be done in his name. God always has a reason and purpose for you, child."
Kaviya nodded, a silent pact forged between mortal and divine. The nuns, keepers of an ancient covenant, guided her through the sacred arts. She learned to harness the powers within, a force that transcended the physical and delved into the spiritual. Kaviya spent years learning martial arts and hand-to-hand combat, as well as learning to forgive God and to live again within herself to become someone different, a light in the darkness of the world. The nuns had fashioned outfits and costumes for Kaviya, one made of unique materials that would protect her and give her a new identity as well. The years cascaded through the monastery like an emotional tide, leaving behind a transformed soul in its wake. Once a mere mortal, Kaviya shed the remnants of her former self, emerging as the formidable soul punisher. Clad in divine purpose, she stood as a warrior, ready to confront the looming shadows threatening to devour the light. Kaviya's breath resonated against the ancient stone walls within the monastery's silent corridors. Bathed in an ethereal light, her trembling hands tightened their grip on the edges of her cloak. The title bestowed upon her by the nuns, Soul Punisher, echoed with the weight of her newfound purpose, resonating through the hallowed halls. The fragrance of incense lingered in the air as Kaviya knelt in the dimly lit chapel. Flickering candles cast shadows that danced across her face, mirroring her inner turmoil. Her fists clenched, the ethereal glow intensifying, as if an invisible force pulsed through her veins. God, Holy Spirit, I now go forth to do your bidding. I will do as you have instructed me to do. Within the sanctuary of the church, Kaviya found solace in her new purpose. The weight of grief became the catalyst for her transformation. Guided by the nuns, she exchanged the basketball court for a different battleground, where the enemy wore the face of crime and faith-forged weapons were her tools. After years of spiritual metamorphosis, the monastery gates opened, revealing an unchanged world seen through new eyes. The Soul Punisher stepped into the unknown, each movement a testament to the grace bestowed upon her. The wind carried whispers of impending battles, and Kaviya, now more than human, embraced her destiny with unyielding resolve. Armed with weapons forged by the Church of God, Kaviya emerged as a vigilante on a mission. Her once shattered heart now beat to the rhythm of justice, a testament to the emotional journey that had sculpted her into a force to be reckoned with. Beyond the monastery gates, the city of Flintlock, Kaviya revved the engine of her motorbike. The roar of the exhaust echoed through the desert night as she returns to the city that once held her memories of joy, now resonated with the haunting whispers of her past. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying with it the weight of her sorrow and the strength of her newfound purpose. She rode her motorbike, given as a gift from the nuns, to the top of a cliff. Her senses, heightened by divine empowerment, perceived the ebb and flow of life around her. Kaviya looked down at the city in the distance, a stark contrast to the tranquil sanctuary she had called home. Kaviya's heart echoed with a mix of trepidation and purpose as she looked down at the streets. The memory of her family's tragedy lingered, fueling the fire that burned within. Wearing only a hoodie and jeans, the first place she visited was the resting place of her mother and little sister. She sat down next to them, reflecting on the loss of their lives and the gang of criminals that ruined not only her life, but of many other innocent lives lost. Kaviya would bear witness to what she had missed being away for years in the monastery. She would sit there for what seemed like minutes, but ended up being a few hours. Kaviya noticed all the fresh new graves around the cemetery and lives taken far too soon, and she would come back to her mother and sister and get upset and resolute. Kaviya clenched her fist in anger, and her eyes would glow without her knowing. She wiped the tears from her face, took a deep breath, got on her motorbike, and rode into the city. Kaviya couldn't believe how much had changed in just a few years away. She rode by burned-up buildings, empty storefronts, and trash-strewn streets. In the heart of the city, Kaviya got off her motorbike and kneeled down in disgust and anger in the middle of the rain-soaked street. Kaviya was determined and resolute that the city she grew up in was not a lost cause and was not going to be destroyed by crime. The Soul Punisher, with quiet determination, stood up and drew her sword forged by the hands of God. She vowed that the scars of crime and violence would not be etched upon the urban landscape of Flintlock. She would confront darkness and bring the light back to the city she called home for so many years. With a fire in her eyes, she made a pledge that with her God-given gifts, she would bring light to the world, God's light. A cry for help cut through the city's din, and Kaviya's instincts kicked in. A storm of lightning surrounded Kaviya. Holding her sword, she changed into one of her outfits fashioned by the nuns. She jumped on her motorbike and rode towards the source of the scream, her cloak billowing like a divine shroud. In a dimly lit alley, a young woman trembled, cornered by a group of thugs. The Soul Punisher's eyes flared with a righteous fury as she stepped forward. "Leave the girl be," Kaviya commanded, her voice carrying the weight of a celestial decree. The thugs turned, their faces contorted with a mix of surprise and defiance. One, more brazen than the rest, laughed dismissively. "Look, now what do we have here? A hero wannabe? This is going to be fun, boys. Let's stick this chick." Without a word, Kaviya moved with a grace that belied her earthly origins. Her hands glowed with an otherworldly light as she confronted the thugs. The first swing of her hand sent ripples of divine force through the air, scattering the would-be assailants like leaves in the wind. The thugs couldn't take the hint and kept coming for Kaviya. Armed with weapons forged by the Church of God, she took each of them down, and the thugs ran away screaming. Kaviya held back her hand so as not to scare the girl she was trying to protect. She dares not to remove the souls of these hoodlums for the sake of giving them a chance to change. For she is forever now a beacon of hope and the hands of God, and she had to choose between taking the soul or not. It was up to her to grant a second chance, a chance Kaviya got, and one her mother and sister never had. The young woman, eyes wide with gratitude, whispered a breathless thank you. Kaviya nodded, her gaze unwavering, and continued her patrol through the city's veins. The Soul Punisher had emerged not as a savior seeking adulation, but as a silent guardian, a force that moved in tandem with the heartbeat of the vulnerable. As night descended, Kaviya stood on the rooftop of a dilapidated building, overlooking the city's sprawl. The distant hum of traffic and the flickering city lights painted a mosaic of life, both beautiful and brutal. The scars of the past echoed in the sirens that wailed in the distance. A whisper of wind carried the scent of distant rain, a cleansing promise that mirrored Kaviya's newfound purpose. Her hands glowed once more as she surveyed the city below, attuned to the cries for help reverberating through the urban landscape. In an abandoned warehouse, the Soul Punisher, hiding in the shadows, took note of the gang of men that killed her family. The air crackled with tension as she moved in the shadows, her every step guided by the divine force that coursed through her veins. Unaware of the ethereal presence in their midst, the gang plotting nefarious deeds. Kaviya's eyes flared with an intensity that transcended mortal determination. She moved swiftly, her hands a conduit for the divine justice she now embodied. Raising her arms, the glow from her hands intensified and cast an otherworldly radiance that painted the warehouse in hues of celestial power, taking their souls and sending them to hell where they belong. As the last criminal fell, subdued by forces beyond comprehension, Kaviya stood amidst the remnants of darkness and ash. The air hung heavy with the echoes of her victory, and a triumph etched not only in the physical realm, but in the metaphysical tapestry of souls. In the heart of the city, the Soul Punisher stood, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. Her journey had just begun, and as the night embraced her, Kaviya vowed to navigate the path between the mortal and divine, a force for justice in a world that teetered on the edge of redemption. Kaviya, the Soul Punisher, her soul changed by God, now ready to face any challenge and protect the souls of the innocent, and to seek vengeance on those souls that are damned for eternity in hell by the Soul Punisher.